All right, well, oh, thanks. So my name is Jay. I'm also known as Mr. SSC, which stands for Slowly Sipping Coffee. I write at the blog slowlysippingcoffee.com. It's one that my wife and I started, I think in 2013 at this point, maybe 2014. I'm pretty sure about 2013 is when we started it. And we actually came up with the idea and the name for the blog on one of our Fridays off because we both worked a 980 schedule. So we have every other Friday off, and so we would do Friday dates. And Friday coffee dates was one of our things. And so we're sitting outside of Starbucks, of course, and having coffee and watching all the traffic kind of grind by because it's right near a busy Houston intersection. And so we're just kind of car watching and coming up with a name for the blog. We're like, well, what should it do? What should it be? Because there's all these like Plan, Invest, Escape and all these retirement blogs and FI blogs, and we were like, well, what do we want to do? And we're like, well, not that. Like, that's what we don't want to do. But what do we want to do? Well, just sip our coffee, like just take our time in the morning and just slowly sip coffee versus sitting in the car, slugging it down on the way to work, and hence slowly sipping coffee. And then the logo is courtesy, the idea behind it was I Dream of Fire. So the blogger with that, he and I were in a mastermind and we talked every couple of weeks for about a year. And he kept saying, oh, you should just get a sloth drinking coffee. Like, that'd be a great, slowly sipping coffee. And I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. I could try that. So I went to Fiverr, and the first one was just nothing. And then amazingly, Fiverr came through, $25, and I got the logo and got everything else for it. And sent it, it's a pretty easy process to get through. But so that's our blog. I'm going to start off with kind of an overview, high level of just our story. So the people that don't know our backstory that I haven't gotten to talk to this weekend yet, you'll get caught up to speed and then taken through the rest of it as we move along. So if you are not in the oil and gas industry, this is a chart of oil prices through time. And so I picked from 2007 to 2016, which was probably when I published this on the blog for that article. And I just sort of thought it'd be funny setting our timeline to the oil prices because it does tie in a lot with what happened with our fire, with our move away from fire, and how it just shaped our whole future being in that industry. And not only just being in that industry, but if you notice, there are a couple of really sharp drops that happened during our careers in that industry. And during that time, there were lots of layoffs. So if we start at the beginning, I was in school at Colorado School of Mines out in Denver. I lived in Denver and just drove to Golden. And my wife was at school at Northwestern in Evanston, so basically Chicago. And we both got internships down in New Orleans in the oil industry with Chevron. And that's where I met her. And I remember when I met her, like first time I saw her, I thought, why can't I be with somebody like that? Because all my previous relationships had just been these toxic dumpster fires. But coming from and it's like coming from the childhood that I, grew up in, that was my comfortable and normal. And it's like, no, I should try and get away from that. I should try and be with somebody like this. And so, so we hit it off really well that summer, did lots of back and forths. Oil prices climb and everybody's like, oh, you guys are entering the industry at a great time. This is just amazing. And in this period here, we flew out to New Orleans from our separate cities, went house hunting, bought a house together. Well, she bought the house because my credit score was so bad. I'm basically the anti-Kara because I don't care if I have debt. It doesn't affect my sleep. It doesn't do anything other than that's another bill I have to pay. It'll get paid off at some point. But I'm that person, so it was pretty horrible from that standpoint. But we started work full time right as oil prices started to dip, and then we got married, and then oil prices cratered down around $45, $47, and there were lots of layoffs around our company. Lots of layoffs around other companies, just sort of global, but nothing too major. But it was enough for us to be like, what if we got laid off? Like, how would we deal with all of this? And especially because I came into the marriage with 64 grand in student loans, 17 grand in credit card debt. Yes, that was me. And she came into the marriage with 40 grand in savings from her previous home sale, no debts, no credit card debt, nothing, just like, oh, I'm a nice saver, I do all this good stuff. So yeah, so that's quite a shock. We would not have gotten married. So then oil prices came up, everything stabilizes, it's all nice and good. We're just figuring out how to live life in our post-school world. And in the background, Mrs. SSC is just saving and investing, and I'll get into how we got to there before, but with both of us making oil salaries, they're fairly high, they're fairly generous, pretty lucrative six-figure type salaries. And even though we were spending a lot, we still weren't spending everything, and we didn't rush out and buy new cars. We didn't, go crazy with it. And she just sort of kept funneling stuff into either stocks or sometimes some index funds. But, back in the 2010, 2011, we were fairly ignorant, except that her dad had recently retired and had a Morningstar account open and gave her, the login so she could also benefit from his account. And so she would research all kinds of things to invest in and be like, I'm putting X amount of dollars into this fund. What do you think about it? Yeah, sure, that sounds good. Well, don't you want to know if it's like high risk, high yield, or if it's low risk, or if it's what it is? No, I trust you. I'm good. It's fine. You do with it. It's okay. I mean, seriously, she could have just robbed me blind, and I'd be like, oh, the story of this lady. But yeah, but fortunately, she didn't, or hasn't yet that I know of. So. And again, because I rarely touch on her, it's hilarious when I do talk to her and I have specific money numbers like, oh, well, there's, 63 grand I saw in this one account and then whatever number in this other account. She's like, what are you doing in the accounts? Why are you poking around in there? It's like I tread in her domain and she's like, whoa. This is my wheelhouse. You stick to your wheelhouse. And so, yeah, she was doing the saving and investing and she kept our lifestyle creep pretty minimal, mainly through the fact of I'd be like, I want to get a truck. No, we don't need a truck. Oh, come on, but then we could get a boat. But I don't want to get a boat. But we can afford a boat and a truck. But I don't want to afford a truck or a boat, and so she kept me from being the typical American and just being like, I'm making six figures. I'm going to spend six figures, because that's literally what I would have done. And had we not met, I would just probably be up to my shoulders in debt and like, I'm working till I'm 65 and probably okay with it, to be honest, but that's okay. I'm here now and that's good. In 2014, she discovered FIRE after a kind of rough year at work and reading a bunch of different PF blogs, and I'll get into what exactly drove that. I left the company. We both worked at the same company for the first 6 years, and then I left to start at a new company at some excellent timing right before another massive oil price drop and a huge layoff cycle. And so when I left my company and the oil price started tanking, my first thought was like, oh crap, I'm getting laid off, because I just got brought in, nobody knows if I'm good, I haven't been able to show anybody anything, and I'm talking to my mentor at the time, and he's like, no, you haven't pissed off anybody here yet. There is a big list of people ahead of you that are gonna get let go before they get down to you. You're fine, don't worry about it. And I was like, okay, that's great. And fortunately, the company I went to, Oxy, ended up having a policy saying we're not going to do layoffs. Like, we won't give out a bonus for this year, well, that year, but they, still other compensation, but they tried not to lay anybody off. And essentially, they just went through the lower performers and people on, disciplinary actions already were the only ones that got let go. And so that was pretty awesome, because that was great hearing the CEO saying, no, we're not doing layoffs, and stick to it. So that was really nice. And then things went on from there. So again, at the start of our savings, like I was saying, Mrs. SSE is the money nerd, and she is the one that drove this whole thing. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here. But she's also a huge introvert, doesn't like talking in front of people, doesn't like showing up to some place like this and having a bunch of people talk to her for the whole weekend. Something like FinCon would be her hell, because it's just not her thing. But what she does love is spreadsheets, tracking savings, tracking spending, investing, that sort of thing. So she had been tracking our spending, but she would just do a spot check kind of monthly or sometimes quarterly. And we were noticing, the credit card bill seems to be pretty high every month. I mean, it gets paid off every month, but it still seems like it just is really pretty high for us. So we're like, what if we just cut it by 25%? Like, nothing crazy, we'll just try and cut off a quarter of it. And it was super easy to do. I mean, I don't even know that we tried. It didn't feel like we tried. And all of a sudden it was close to 50% that we had cut it in 1 month. And we were like, did you notice any change? No. Did you notice anything different? No. Okay, well, why don't we try and do a 50%? So we shot for 50% and we made that, and that was pretty comfortable. And so then we're sort of like, well, where the hell did all that money go? You know, like if we had all this money that we were spending every month, what do we have to show for it? What's around? And so we started going through the list of where we had been spending everything and trying to find our financial leaks. And I should have put my mugshot in the middle of this because I was one of the biggest financial leaks in our whole family plan. And so that's what started first, our kind of allowance or squirrel fund or personal funds, pocket money, whatever you want to call it. So we basically came up with, I have X amount of dollars per month and she has X amount of dollars per month, and minus anything illegal with it, I could spend it on whatever I want. And there's sort of a no questions asked. If I want to go buy some woodworking equipment, yeah, whatever, that's fine. If I want to buy a bunch of home brewing stuff, sure, that's fine. If she wants to go spend it all on shoes and have 300 pairs of shoes, that's fine. You know, like that's your money, you do with that. And it solved a lot of little, you know, not fights, but just like, well, why did you spend $80 here? Or why did you spend $70 there? And it would, you know, and essentially we decided the allowance would be, if it's only going to benefit you, take it from the allowance. If it's going to, you know, benefit both of us, it'll come from the general fund. And so it was like, okay, so that was basically the rule for it. And it morphed through the years to include more things. But yes, I was a big leak, and so I got put on a spending budget. So when we went back through our list of tracking our spending for those couple of months and cutting down the credit card bill and trying to find out where we're still spending a whole lot, we realized that we were spending about $100 a week at Target. On what? I have no idea, because we didn't grocery shop there, you know? And it's like, there is, yeah, and I mean, you just, for us, coming from the two colder climates to Louisiana, it's awesome, but it's sort of the flip side of everybody else's seasons, because it's amazing from about November to May, and then from June to August or so, maybe even up to October, it's just god awful outside. And so your winter is the summer, and you just tend to spend more time indoors unless you like lots of humidity and sweating a lot. So we would go to Target and be like, well, let's get out of the house. Well, where do you want to go? Well, there's not really a mall unless we drive across the lake, so we'll just go to Target. It's air conditioned, we can walk around and, you know, kill some time. Or we'll go to Costco. But we would only do Costco maybe once a month or so, because it was a little further away, and I mean, it's Costco, you know, like, you don't need to go there every day. And we found out that basically it was just that whole, just put it in the basket, or your, you know, World Market. Oh, that's a cute wooden giraffe. Just throw it in the basket. Oh, that's a nice basket. Throw it in the basket, you know? And it was like just stupid stuff. Like, yes, yeah. They're popular. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we were just like, it doesn't help if we have all this money coming in. If it's just, yeah, I know, this is part of it. No, but it's like, if it's just coming in and going right out, then what's the point? You know, like how can we get better at this? And with that whole throw it in the basket mindset, what can we do to get around it? So we started trying to figure out a way to plug the leaks. And basically that's how I felt like she was, where it was like, we're gonna crack down, we're gonna cut the spending, we're gonna get it down. And so we made some rules. I mean, and it worked well for us because, you know, rules and that sort of thing. But like the Target, you only buy the things that are on the list. So when we went to Target, we now have a list. If it's not on the list, it's not in the basket. And we thought that was a good start, but we realized we were still going to Target quite a bit, and we still had lists. So then we were like, okay, we're only going once a month now. And so it would just be once a month we'd go to Target. And amazingly, it dropped to like less than $100 that we spent per month at Target. Because it's like, well, we only need these 3 things. Okay, sure, let's go get those 3 things and then move on with life and do something else. Costco, we realized we weren't really getting much value out of it. They were just getting more money from us, walking around and impulse buying crap we didn't need, you know? And so we're like, okay, well, let's just cancel that membership, and then we can't go spend money there. And so we canceled our Costco membership, and that was a nice $400 that, you know, just came back because we could pick everything else up at other places like dog food or whatever, but we were not like, oh, look, let's buy this little garden set. Let's buy this other thing. Oh, look, a bounce house. Yeah, so Costco, we just did away with that. And then we implemented one of the things that we found, and we still do to this day, is kind of asking ourselves, is this a want that we really, this is a shirt. I don't need this shirt, but I want this shirt. Or is this a need? And it's like, well, if you're out of shirts and you don't have any more and you need shirts, buy new shirts. But if it's just something that you want, maybe get it from your allowance. Maybe just don't buy it, and that stopped a whole lot of our just toss it in the basket kind of mindset, and it's like, just because we could afford it doesn't mean we should afford it. And that money could be better utilized other places. So that helped us a whole lot with that just buy it kind of mindset, and it was crazy because, again, coming from middle class to lower class kind of family background on my side, growing up just super broke. We got to this thing. I got to a point that I didn't have to worry about bills. I didn't have to worry about, having money for groceries or any of that. And it's like, it's amazing the amount of financial stress that you can, just put on yourself when you're trying to make your bills, and it's just month to month to month to month kind of a thing. And it was really awesome for me and kind of freeing being in a position where I didn't have to worry about that. It was amazing. I was just like, that's it, I've made it. I don't have any financial stress. This is awesome. But, it's like, it didn't help because I still wanted to buy all the stuff I couldn't buy the whole time I was working towards getting to this spot. And so I kind of reverted back to a kid mentality almost, where it's like, oh, but I want to buy that. Oh, but I want to buy that. Now that I can't afford that, I want to buy that, And so I had to learn how to rein that in for myself. And a lot of it was with these sorts of rules and the wants or the needs and the allowance. So for us, that helped a whole lot, and especially with my love of spending money. And in the meantime, that all of this other stuff is going on, again, Mrs. SSC is just saving and investing in the background. And she just keeps hammering on this lifestyle creep. It's like when I did decide to get a car and replace my Ford Explorer, I was like, I want a truck. Well, you don't need a truck. What are you going to pull with a truck? Okay, well then what about this car, that car? And I'm looking at these stupid SUVs, and I'm just like, I don't really want this SUV. I don't want that, And I was like, they had just redone the Camaro with that new body style. And I said, what would be awesome would be like one of those new Camaros. Well, if that's what you want, you can get it. And I was like, wait, are you serious? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, really? She's like, yeah. So I did get to a nice, kind of splurge, I guess, for a car when I replaced my Explorer. But at the same time, it was only about 25 grand. So it still wasn't like a $60,000 super sports car or even like an RS or an SS. It's like, I got a V6, and it's like, it still gets up to 120, no problem. And it still accelerates really fast, and it still drives really nice, And so for me, I was like, it's got great horsepower, it got good gas mileage, and yeah, she's still hammering on the lifestyle creep because every time I'm like, but what about, and no, I don't want that. Let's not do that. So again, she's doing a lot in the background, just keeping me from blowing all of our money, because God knows I would. And so the why, what is your why? For us, we didn't really have this is what we want to do with our money until, a couple of years after our kids were born. Our first son was born, and we just realized we were spending a lot of time away from him. But what first brought Mrs. SSC into fire was reading all these different blog posts, and she sent me this email, and she's just like, oh my God, I'm dying reading this blog post by this guy called Mr. Money Mustache. The last line of this paragraph made me laugh out loud. And basically in one of his articles, he was talking about, life at FI and that sort of thing. And he said, you'll suddenly be able to fly freely through the world, free from having to work for a living, able to start living life as you choose, doing exotic things like spending time raising your young children, pretty exotic, or taking a 3-week vacation each month, or just enjoying understated shows of leisure, like sweeping your driveway in pajamas at 11 on a sunny Thursday morning. And she's like, I want to do that, be able just to have a show of leisure and, go sweep the driveway or do whatever I want to do. Because again, she'd had a pretty bad year at her job, and just didn't want to be there. But I would rather be like, well, what about if we go with this scenario? And, she's telling me, oh yeah, this Mr. Money Mustache, it's great, it's awesome, you should read this, come on, let's do this, it's this fire thing. Let's do what he's doing. I'm like, okay, well, tell me more about it. What is he doing? Well, he's saving all of his money, and they're only living off about $26K or so a year, and they're just able to retire early in their 30s. And I'm like, okay, but yeah, no. And I mean, seriously, when she was like 26K a year, I was just like, no, I've lived off 26K a year. It sucks. I am not a fan. Like, I didn't go through school and get this job making really good money, living very comfortably right now, to quit just to not work. Like, no, that's not, no. Nope. And I was just like, I put my foot down, no, but keep doing what you're doing. Let's revisit this. But I mean, I was just staunchly opposed. And so that leads with my don't follow somebody else's plan. I mean, my plan is probably not going to fit anybody in here. And no, every single person in here has a plan that will probably not work for every other single person in here. Because, I mean, everybody has their own life. Everybody has their own finances. Everybody has their own mental hang-ups, about money and finances and things that they have that they want to focus on, and so just figure out your own plan. They're great to use as guides. The PF blogs are amazing and a huge wealth of resources, but don't just try and take somebody's plan and just cookie cutter it to your life. Like figure out, it's like, what is your why? Why do you want to get to FI? And then how do you want to get there? If you have your why and it's your family focus, that can lead to a totally different plan than if you don't ever plan to have kids and you both love traveling. Then it's like, well, you're going to want to save up a ton of money and go travel. And that's going to be a totally different looking plan than, say, what turned out with us and having a family focus. Or if you just want to escape a really bad job situation, could you get a different job at a different company? Could you go into a different industry? I mean, I've had 2 careers now. Mrs. SSC is on her 3rd career. She's going to turn 42 later this year. And, it's like there's nothing wrong with jumping careers and doing something different, and especially if it makes you happier and you're having a better life at that time, Or maybe you're like me. Once I went from Chevron to Oxy, I loved it. I mean, oh my God, the work culture was amazing. The corporate culture was amazing. I liked all the people there. I had a blast. I really enjoyed working there, and I would still be there if this job hadn't happened, And then you have to ask yourself, do you even want to retire early? Because about 2 years into our plan, Mrs. SSC had been researching, well, what am I going to do when we retire? Because she's type A, and she's just, like, go, pretty much the whole time. And so she was thinking, well, if we retire, and especially at that point, we'd been looking at different towns, small towns. If we retire to some smaller town, sure, we could go out and bike or hike or do this. But it was sort of like I was talking with somebody this morning of, say you love ice cream, and it's your just favorite treat, dessert in the world, but you only get it about once a month. And then it's super special because you get it the once a month. And suddenly you can have ice cream every day, and you eat ice cream every day. And after a couple months, you're just like done with it because it's just not special anymore and it's not nice. It's like, are we going to get bored of the hiking or the golf for 3 months and you're done with it because you're just burnt out on it? And, so she realized, yeah, maybe she doesn't really want to retire early. And she had gone back to get her PhD so that she could teach at a college university level. And going into the oil and gas industry, she wasn't able to do that yet. And so she decided she was going to try and just go for, instead of retiring early, having a lifestyle change. And so around 2014 or maybe 2015, we came up to the little nomenclature of a fully funded lifestyle change. And so we were like, goodbye fire, hello lifestyle change, because essentially we're just trying to design our life to turn into what used to be a typical family situation with a 1-income earner and a stay-at-home parent. And we came up with a fully funded lifestyle change, with the fully funded parts being that we could front load, oh, that must be on the next one. Yeah, we could front load our retirement and then maybe just take a lower paying job somewhere else. Like if she wanted to become an adjunct professor or whatever, some kind of other teaching job, We explored a myriad of options. But if we had something that could cover our basic expenses, and since our basic expenses were about $50K a year, then we wouldn't have to touch our principal, we wouldn't have to draw anything down, or we would only have to draw down maybe 1% or 0.5% each year to kind of make up the difference of the shortfall. So this happened around that 2014, 2015 time period where the oil price just tanked down to $30 a barrel. Chevron went through a nice long 18 to 20 month layoff program with my wife's department. And then they went through another long 18-month program with the rest of the company right after that. And that pretty much just killed her drive to want to keep working there. And it just lit the fire of finding a teaching job and something she was more passionate about. And so, again, I was looking at geology jobs like a park ranger or BLM, like Bureau of Land Management. But most of those, middle of nowhere, 30, 40K a year, which isn't that bad because it would fit our family-focused lifestyle change that we were wanting to go for, except it wasn't a teaching kind of position for Mrs. SSC, and she would be sort of host with that. So as I'd mentioned, that whole 18-month-long layoff process just killed her corporate spirit. I mean, she used to be a huge fan and just loved working there and everything, but no, that's way too much. So she started looking for jobs, and she got an adjunct professor job, and her income dropped a whole lot. And so she said, well, how is this going to affect our planning for retirement? You know, if I lose my income and we're not able to use one of the incomes to invest, that's really going to like slow things down. And so we started running the numbers. Oh, let me rephrase that. I don't run any numbers. She started running the numbers and realized that essentially it's only going to add maybe a year or two until we both hit FI, as in if we both wanted to retire early, we could. And she was okay with that, and I'm okay with that, because I'm like, look, it's only a year or two, but you're in a happier position. And when she left, the corporate world for the teaching world, the biggest thing we gained was just freedom, a lot more open schedule, and a lot better family lifestyle. So previously, our schedule was wake up, get the kids ready, drop them off at Primrose at 6:30 in the morning, and then drive to work. And we would get to work at about 7:45 and maybe 7:30 because the traffic's already bad at that point. And then we stay until 4:45, and we'd leave at 4:45, and it would take us until about 5:30 or so to get back there and pick up the kids and go home and feed them, give them a bath, and then they go to bed. And that was about all that we got to see them. And it sucked. You know, we were just like, yay, we've created this horrible life for ourselves. We did it, you know? So we were like, how can we change this? So leaving that, there's more to life than just money. I mean, money is amazing and it helps a whole lot. And the 16-year-old version of me would try to punch me for saying that, because it'd be like, no, that's not it. Money, it makes life easy. And it does. But the happiness, you know, and still being able, like, what's the point of saving all this money if you can't tailor your life to be happy when you have it? And so we got all of that open time. The biggest thing was the kids could sleep in and didn't have to get woken up at 6 o'clock or 6:10 in the morning, which is really early. We lived really close to our elementary school, and the Primrose was right beside it. So she was able to like get the kids up, walk them to school and daycare. They got to have 2 hours less at daycare, and then after school programs, once they got into school, I was able to, instead of being home by 6:15 or so every day, I was able to get home by 4:15. I could walk and pick up the kids. You know, I could take the bike and pick up the kids. It was awesome. I had way more time to spend with them. She had way more time and flexibility in her schedule for us to spend together. I mean, it was just great. So our tweaks with the lifestyle change, and again, going back to this little sign, this was a birthday present that she made for me of life is too short to live in Houston, because about 2 years into that whole 12-hour-a-day commuting and all that stuff, we were like, yeah, this just isn't sustainable. I know thousands and probably million people or so do it, but we didn't want to do it, you know, and we were just like, it's not going to be sustainable for us. So we decided we're going to move. So, well, we'll make this move. How's it going to go? So we started using city-data.com. Oh, it's a phenomenal site. They give you tons of demographics, building permit infos, house prices, weather, wind, snow, anything you could think of, demographics of high school degrees, masters, advanced degrees. So you could find out if a town could potentially be a fit for you, if it's going to be too cold, too hot, too windy, too busy, whatever it is. And our savings stayed about the same, but we just kind of looked for a way to get out. And, we sort of slowed it down a bit, realizing that if one of us is going to have some kind of an income for at least the next 10 years from 40 to 50, we could not save any more dollars ever. And if we worked another 10 years, we're still going to be fine. So it's we don't have to cut everything and be as hardcore about it as we were. Not that we need to let the lifestyle creep come back up or anything like that, but we could relax a little bit and kind of enjoy life. And then we were trying to find a place that's going to fit our lifestyle and our why, to get a family-focused, single-family income kind of area. So her parents had retired to Kerrville, which is about 45 minutes west of San Antonio and about 45 minutes south of Canyon Lake. And so this is a picture of our access point to Canyon Lake from the property that we bought. But we bought 2 acres at a neighborhood at Canyon Lake, and we are one of the oak trees that's on it for the kids' playhouse. And it was closer to her family and close-ish to work for Mrs. SSC, because she was teaching in Houston at this point. And her plan was, well, I'll just drive 3 hours to Houston and teach Monday night and stay the night and teach Wednesday, stay Monday and Tuesday and teach Monday and Wednesday, or Tuesday and Thursday, whatever days they were, and then be gone for 2 nights and come back the next day. And basically it'd be there for 4 days and gone for 2.5 days. And she's like, oh yeah, I could do that. And I'm just like, you don't like the 30-minute commute or 45-minute commute. You hate driving. How are you gonna wanna drive 6 or 7 hours each week for 10 years? I was skeptical of it, but I'm like, I'll go along with it. We'll see, so let's go. So we got that. We start designing the house because we figured at the very least it was only 3 hours from Houston, and we could use it as a vacation house and just slowly move into it, similar to a Plan, Invest, Escape with Mr. and Mrs. Pye and their New Hampshire house when they both worked in Boston. And we were like, yeah, we can do it that way, but without having double of everything. Because I was like, well, how do we furnish that house and then not have an empty house in Houston? And so that's what we were doing. And then this tenure track job opened up. And she's like, I think I am a good fit for this. Maybe I should apply. And I'm like, yeah, apply for it, go for it. But it's in Oklahoma. And it's Oklahoma. I think of Oklahoma and it's flat grasslands, tornadoes, lots of storms, big hail. Why in the hell would we want to go to Oklahoma? Nobody says, I'm going to retire to Oklahoma. It doesn't happen. But this is our backyard. I'm sitting out having coffee, and I was like, oh, I should take a picture of this. And I had cleared out, you can see a lot of the trees still laying around, waiting to be turned into, I have no idea what, but something. And I had cleared out this back area, and it's yeah, that's kind of the backyard now. And it's amazing how many trees I cut down and, just cleaned off around the property, and it still is just super woodsy and full of trees. It's so overgrown. But so this is where we ended up in Oklahoma. That's kind of our back porch setting. And like most of the country, we had never thought about Oklahoma prior to her getting this job, because not to bash on Oklahoma, but come on, it's you're not I'm going to move to the Northwest, or I'm going to move to wherever people want to move, but it's not Oklahoma. But I have to say, I love it. It's been amazing so far. I love the country feel. We've got deer, 2 does, and one has 2 fawns and one has 3, and they wander around a whole lot. And I've gotten to see all sorts of, 2 or 3 pygmy rattlesnakes now, all kinds of spiders, all kinds of just outdoor stuff. My daughter loves playing with her, she's got 3 different butterfly nets, basically. And she goes and catches bugs and butterflies and lizards and frogs and God knows what, and puts them in little terrariums and just has fun playing, with all the stuff outside. So that's been pretty fun. The people are super nice. It's very rural. As evidenced by it, we back up to 200 acres of just woods that is ag land. So that's really nice to have that buffer behind us. But yeah, it's very low cost of living and a laid back lifestyle. I mean, our house did turn into a money pit, but I've got to post about that. And we had planned to spend about 40 grand on it for doing upgrades and some maintenance and all of that. And we're at about 61 right now, and we haven't gotten to the kitchen. So yeah, it's been fun. And I've done most of the work. Like we had 10 grand of just hauling costs and I cut everything down, stacked it all up, and it was literally just paying people to come and pick it up and haul it away from all of just the brush and vines and timber. Probably 1,600 cubic feet got hauled out of there, I think it was what I had come up with. And yes, a ton of stuff. But my lifestyle now. So when I was going into that lifestyle, like I had said in one of the earlier roundtables, like I said, well, I want to do the CASA thing and spend more time at school with the kids or volunteering. And oh, do I ever spend time at school volunteering. But my first job is essentially the stay-at-home dad. And according to my wife, it's the cleaning. Just clean, just keep everything clean. You know, it is. And then it's the groceries and everything else after that. And every day there's a little post-it of things to do. And, you know, that helps me because I've been doing a lot of focus on getting my mental health a lot better. And so one of the things was with the meds, there was a ton of fatigue that had come around with that, and then a load of forgetfulness. Like, oh my gosh, I feel like Tommy Chong just walking around like I'm stoned all the time, but without the benefits of being stoned all the time. It's just the bad parts, like you lose your train of thought in the middle of a sentence, or you forget words and you're just sitting there thinking, what was the word of that thing? And oh, it's horrible. But yeah, so I liked that she left me lists because she would tell me, do these like 4 things. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. And then I see something shiny in my workshop and I'm like, oh, I'll work on this. And then it's 3 o'clock and everybody's home and I haven't done anything. And yeah, it wasn't good. But so that all got taken care of. We're getting that sorted still mostly. I went through training and got sworn in as a CASA, which is a court-appointed special advocate for kids in the foster system. And I'm about 6 months in on my first case with that. School, so a PTA secretary. I spent so much time last year volunteering as a watchdog and just general volunteering, like with the Santa store and other sorts of things, that they're like, oh, come on, you be the secretary. So yeah, it's like, fine, I'll do that, and have gotten to where I volunteer for most events. But, you know, it's like, I spend most of my time at that place anyway, or at Scouts anyway, so why not just volunteer to do something while I'm there? And since, especially with Scouts, I'm the treasurer for our pack, and it's about 100 kids, plus or minus. I think we're at 120 this year, which is ridiculous. And then I'm also the co-leader of our wolf den. But, you know, again, all of that stuff, it's all volunteer-led. And it's like, if I'm going to be there, I can at least step up and be there and be active, as opposed to just sit on my phone on the side while they're going through their den meetings. So that's essentially how I filled up my days currently. And then go into, you know, and Mrs. SSC gets up and goes to work every day. And it's like, bye, and she leaves at 7 and gets home around 4, and that's what she does. Some of the things that we did and that I found really helpful, especially for me, I mean, okay, so my wife designed this amazing spreadsheet. She got it all set up, and when I got into a fire mastermind, we were doing a health check maybe on everybody's fire plans and savings. And so I get this sheet, and I had to make a freaking PowerPoint just to explain it to everybody, but it at least helped me understand what was going on in the sheet, because I mean, the first 3 hours I'm looking at the thing, I'm like, okay, I get all of this, and then it would make some leap to some page somewhere else, and I'm like, what the hell just happened? Why is this number and not that number? And why are these things here? And what is this multiplier for? And anyway, so yeah, so she had a big spreadsheet that she put stuff in. I'm more of a high-level wing it sort of guy, so I use like, and again, these are better than high-level wing it, but like for fire calculator, the C-Fire Sim, I'm a big fan of that, just for the fact that you can go in, and they've tweaked it a whole lot now. to give you a lot more options than back when I had used it early on. But you can put in, your stock or bond allocations, or if you have anything in just cash or gold or whatever the heck you have in there. If you have a pension coming in or Social Security and what you think that could be. And you can put in all of those, all of your expected yearly cost you can set. So what we liked doing was setting a floor of say 40K and setting an upper limit of about 70K. And sort of like Carson had pointed out, if you have those variations, it's about the same as if you say it's 60K, because I don't know, it's just, that's how it works out. And and so you could do that. You could say, I only want to spend this much each time, and you hit run, and it gives you these little plots and your success rates and all this kind of stuff. And then you can go back and tweak other things and hit run. And then you have scenario 1 and scenario 2, and you can make as many as you want and adjust things however you want to. So that was pretty awesome. Fire calculator is the same sort of thing. It's a little different setup. And since everybody's minds work differently, maybe you'll like one more than the other. I like cFireSale more than FireCalc, but I still used both. So, just look into them if you want to. The city-data.com. Again, that's what we used to, there used to be a website called Find Your Spot, and it was like this 8 or 9 screen, 50 question questionnaire of all these different things, like, do you want cold weather or hot weather? Do you want mountains or beaches? Do you want to be near a big city or near the country? Do you want to, do you care about sports? Do you care about college teams or, professional sports? And do you want to have arts and music and blah, 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 and just all the way through the list? Do you like pets? Do you want to be bike friendly? And then it spits out a list of cities that says they fit that criteria. And so it was awesome because all of a sudden now we've got 20 cities we can go and research. And so we used that. We used a lot of city-data and Zillow for that stuff. And then just the bottom 2 links are some newer curation sites for anybody looking for more PF blogs, podcast, or whatever. One of them is CampFI Finance. Ty started it. He's in Seattle. And he had it going for a while, and it sounds like he was going to close it down, and somebody bought it and kept it going. So it's still going to be going along. But they send out the daily Kindling. If you want to get like 3 emails, 3 articles emailed to you every day, you could sign up for that. They have a feed, so if blogs go in there and register their blog, it'll pull from the RSS feeds, and you can see daily what stuff's getting posted. It's a really cool site, and I think they also have a big directory in there as well. And then the same with Collecting Wisdom. That's a newer one that I think Zach had just started up after he retired. And again, curation site, you've got the directory, and then the same thing with the feed of the 3 articles a day. So if you're interested in finding more or different or newer blogs to read, check out those sites, scroll through. And last I checked, I think the Rockstar Finance directory is still up, but nothing else. So if you just Google Rockstar Finance directory, it still has a good list of all of those blogs that submitted stuff back when they were submitting stuff. So don't count that one out, but I don't know how long it'll be there. So, and then I think that's it for my talk. So if you have any questions, just let me know.